So we all remember when Yoda and Obi-Wan went into hiding, and if you were going to vacation in the galaxy, where would you want to go? A beach planet like Scarif, right? Well, no. Yoda of course chose the swamp planet, which meant he was well hidden for many years, but what if his greatest fear came true and the Sith somehow tracked him down to his doorstep? Today in this video, we'll explore how Vader would plan to take down the Jedi, the subsequent lightsaber fight, and also how the galaxy would be affected from the loss of Yoda. In the small hut in the middle of the swamp rises the little green man who awakes to the sound of faint crickets outside his window. Yoda has just taken a mid-afternoon nap, and as the fire burns in the oven below a warm stew, Yoda feels at peace. But this moment of joy is cut off when he looks up and sees a shadow blocking the light from his fire cast on the wall. A terrifying figure with a skull-like face and dark robes is standing nearby. Yoda has seen this monster only in his dreams and knows it to be no other than Darth Vader. But then, the whole hut around the Jedi is obliterated as Vader creates a massive force wave. Yoda dodges the debris and then moves back into a different room, igniting a green lightsaber before Vader powers in like a dark ox and turns on his own sword before pushing Yoda back while spinning the lightsaber around him. As they move their way into a narrow hallway of the abode, their lightsabers cut into the walls all around them, similar to another fight Vader fought in. But next, after Vader tries to force choke Yoda outside in the swamping area, Yoda reverses this effect back to Vader through the Force, causing the Sith Lord to drop to his knees as his helmet and breathing apparatus are crushed around his head. Then Yoda force lifts the escape pod he used years ago to arrive at the planet and drops it on top of the Sith, apparently crushing him into the ground. Yoda then flees into the woods as he hears the distant sounds of TIE fighters and walkers. The small Jedi rushes from branch to branch like a Kowakian monkey lizard and flips over logs and streams, creating as much distance as possible from the Empire, while also shielding his presence with the Force. Meanwhile, Vader pushes the pod off of himself and stands up with a damaged breathing sound before an Imperial officer runs up to where Vader stands. "Lord Vader, are you alright? Your mask, it's damaged."
Yes. Now is not the time for complaining though, Admiral. First we must plan on the Jedi's defeat. Now that I have him on the run, we will surround him with a wave of infantry before then also deploying waves of our elite forces to wear him down and to box him down even more.
"I'll send for our troops right away."
That's not all, Admiral. After this, I will personally drive Yoda into the dark side cave of the swamp, where my abilities will be heightened and I will surely defeat him. And next time, for your sake, do not interrupt me, Admiral.
Boom. Yoda stops in a clearing miles away from his home. He's been running for over an hour, but while looking down, a huge shadow is cast over Yoda, enfolding the entire area in darkness. Yoda looks up to see a massive Star Destroyer above him, and this is one of hundreds of the vessels now surrounding the planet. "The dirt of the galaxy this is, controlling and suffocating planets without any respect for the wildlife. A way of intelligence, this is not." But then, Yoda hears the crack of a twig nearby and senses danger. Hundreds of stormtroopers start to encircle Yoda, cautiously stepping in from all sides. Yoda looks one way, then another, as his hand hovers over his hilt at his side. Yoda is now grateful that he recovered his lightsaber from the Senate floor years ago, but then a stormtrooper gives out the order to open fire. So with no other choice, Yoda flips up with his lightsaber now on and begins in a crazed frenzy, blocking all of the laser bolts shot his way, deflecting half of them into the troopers themselves, sending them flying back with horrific wounds. Even though there are at least 200 troops left, this means nothing to the Jedi as he pulls all of his strength and focus back and dives through multiple stormtroopers with his lightsaber and then deflects shots into some, force pushes others into trees, and ultimately defeats them all, showing off his true power. He still feels his strength waning though, and has no time to process this fight as a hulking AT-AT walker steps into the clearing in front of Yoda. So imagine how big these guys look next to a normal human, and then think about what that would be for Yoda. But where most would give up, the walker cocks its head to shoot Yoda, but he then brings the entire vehicle down with the force, crushing its head underneath the body in an explosion. So, I mean, I guess if Starkiller took a whole Star Destroyer down, this maybe isn't as cool as I was thinking it was in the script, but hey, it's still something, I guess. Luke wouldn't be doing this on Hoth, that's for sure. But with no time to recover, Yoda turns around to the sight of a wave of Death Troopers marching in from all sides. Knowing he stands no match in his drained state against them, Yoda pulls a speeder bike out of the walker wreckage and flees as bolts hit trees all around him. Then even the powerful mentality of Yoda isn't enough to stop the panic felt when Darth Vader's own TIE fighter lowers from the air right above him, chasing Yoda through the swamp as he rides his speeder. Vader shoots at Yoda, scarring the ground around him until one bolt directly hits the back of his bike, sending the speeder careening into a ditch as Yoda flies into some cave. Standing up though, Yoda takes in his surroundings, realizing he is in fact doomed.
Sense something different here, Master?
Light or dark, I am one with the Force, and with me it is.
Was it with you when my probe droids found your location and we've readied thousands of personnel to come here to destroy you? Or perhaps when my master left you running at Coruscant before recent years?
Perfect life is not, but strong are those who fight for tomorrow. Foolish is the one who is obsessed with the shape of now.
Don't count on a future for long, Master Jedi.
Yoda walks backwards into a passageway of tall, black obsidian rock with vines hanging around him, and Vader edges forward with his blade cutting through the ground behind him, leaving a trail of scarring along the cave floor. Yoda raises his weapon and stops his retreat. The two just stand there in fighting position as the cave is completely quiet, leaving nothing but the hum of the lightsabers they have raised. Vader jabs forward, hitting Yoda's blade, barely budging him, and then Yoda jabs down, up, and brings Vader's saber into the wall next to Vader, blinding him for a moment. But Vader is one with the strong dark side of the cave.
I need not my eyes.
Then he begins sending his own strikes at Yoda, who parries most of them, but is occasionally dazed by the powerful hit, pushing him back little by little. Yoda leaps up and grips a ledge with his feet, and then flips over Vader, slashing his armor. Then Vader does a parry before lunging, and the two exchange a riposte before then assuming starting positions. Sensing he's losing, Yoda lifts Vader into the ceiling, which cracks the obsidian and damages Vader's suit even more. But then after landing, Vader force pushes Yoda hard across the hallway into one of the black walls, which knocks Yoda out unconscious. Then with this plan successful, Vader would throw Yoda over his shoulder before leaping out of the cave and then ordering impenetrable shackles for Yoda to be built, where they can hold him for questioning later. This is built in Yoda's old swamp nearby, where a nice view of his decimated house is there. For days and days, Vader and the Imperials would try everything they can to crack Yoda and get information out of him regarding the separate surviving Jedi, but nothing works. At first, Vader tries something similar to his grandson Kylo Ren, and he tries by probing deep into his mind to steal information, but Yoda's force shield is far too powerful. Then they try interrogator droids laced with the most poisonous substances to make Yoda expose the truth. But this is in vain as well. But then, on day 4, Lord Vader walks up to Yoda to try out a new strategy. He force pushes Yoda's head into his shackles, causing a bonk on the head.
Necessary that was not.
Then a Lambda shuttle lands behind Vader, with the door pushing thick smoke out of the way as Palpatine walks forward, lifting his robes from the dirty water where he walks.
My master, Please bless me with your abilities today to crack Yoda's mind.
Oh, there are many methods that are good for using now. One I will display shortly. Any last words, Yoda? See the future too, I do. Overthrown by your successors you shall be. Chaos your empire will cause. Yes, and Lord Vader will grow his legs back. Now let's get on with the ceremony. Sidious then uses an ancient Sith ability which allows him to relive Yoda's footsteps through his mind. He goes back to right after their duel at the Senate building where he finds a memory of Padme giving birth before he then sees Bail Organa leave in a shuttle with a baby. And then in the memory, Yoda turns to face Obi-Wan, so Palpatine then swims over to Obi-Wan where he now looks through his eyes, and this takes him to Obi-Wan's Jedi Interceptor where he gets in and flies towards some desert planet. Then Palpatine exits Obi-Wan's memories before then also exiting Yoda's memories, bringing him back to Dagobah. The children of Anakin Skywalker are on Alderaan and Tatooine.
So I assume the usual. You take one, I take one.
We all know how that went last time, and this time let's see how working together sounds. However, before their departure, the Emperor electrocutes Yoda with Force Lightning, except this time he doesn't hold it back at all, and there's also no reactor shaft for him to be thrown into, leading to the Green Jedi's death finally. And despite his pain, Yoda is still able to ascend into the Force, fading away. Then, for good measure, orbital bombardment begins across the destroyers above Dagobah, and after the Imperial forces leave, of course, leading to the planet being turned into more of a fire planet than anything. Vader and Palpatine travel to Alderaan in their Lambda shuttle, accompanied by 10 TIE Reapers with Death Troopers, and also Palpatine's Royal Guard aboard. They drop down at the foot of the Royal Palace before the Death Troopers take out the ground defenses. Then with stealthy precision, the Royal Guard break into the upper levels of the building before slaughtering the defenses there. As Breya escapes the throne room with a 4-year-old Leia in her hands, Bail stays behind to defend their escape with a blaster, but the elite warriors enter and 2 are shot down by Bail, but then another one cuts through his arm holding the blaster, before a 4th slashes down into his back, knocking Organa down. Then as Breya runs up to the door of the room and turns around, one of the red guards throws his javelin at her, which spears her against the wall. Then she drops Leia out of her hands, who is the last minute caught by Palpatine as he walks into the room. Then the two have a Star Destroyer turn the palace to rubble before making their way over to their next destination, which is Tatooine. For the Emperor's grand plan on the desert planet, he dresses up in the Jedi robes of someone like Kenobi, and then with his hood up, makes his way into the Lars homestead, where it is noon, and they are preparing lunch. A bright day for now, but this won't last, as Palps makes his way through the door, engaging a Force mind trick to make the Lars believe in his deceit. Hello. I'd like to see Luke. I have something important to give him. We don't want you here, Obi-Wan. You gave us Luke for our own judgment, and I know you'll respect that. It'll only be a minute, I promise. What could go wrong? Besides, Luke isn't around here anyway. He's downstairs building. At this moment, little Luke walks in, but Owen stops him, putting a hand in front of his shoulder. Now, wait a minute. What's this all about anyway? Then Palpatine force pushes the two into opposite sides of the room, raising Owen off his feet and then paralyzing him as his spine cracks against a sandstone column. Then he pulls out 2 red lightsabers and also takes care of Beru, but as all of this is going down, Obi-Wan would sense the dark presence nearby and then rushes over to where Luke was to be. As he walks through the door, he's met with the disfigured Emperor in his own cloak, but as Obi-Wan starts his command to leave the planet, another lightsaber turns on behind him, and as Obi-Wan slowly turns around, he sees a massive Sith with dark armor and a red lightsaber bleeding into the passageway. Then Sidious and Vader both begin fighting with Kenobi, who is a challenge at first, but as Obi-Wan has more or less cut himself off from the Force, it is not long before the Sith Master and Apprentice overpower Obi-Wan and then cut him down as well. But Obi-Wan, again cut off from the Force, doesn't drift into a Force ghost, which is a shocking feeling for Vader, seeing his master broken and now truly defeated after all these years later. Then the two Dark Lords exit the property with now two Force-sensitive children, and Vader orders the Sand Troopers serving with them to burn the house down, before also doing a search for Obi-Wan's home, which leads to also the recovery of Anakin's lightsaber. With the two major Jedi threats eliminated, the Empire would become even more strong, and especially after the losses of Luke and Leia, who remember are some of the leading figures of the rebellion in the original timeline, and without them this means no blowing up the first Death Star or blowing up the second Death Star for that matter. Han would actually become, through chance, one of the leading figures of the Rebel Alliance, and would lead a Wookiee rebellion on Kashyyyk, as well as multiple revolts at Corellia and even Cloud City. However, these victories were cut short by a young Sith that would find and eliminate the threat. Going back to right after Tatooine, however, Vader will basically replace the Inquisitors as a task force, and then Luke and Leia would over the next few decades grow up to be trained by Vader, and he would give Leia Anakin's hilt, and then Luke the fallen sword of Obi-Wan Kenobi. The lightsabers are of course blue, and for Luke green at first, but then would later on be bled in a Sith trial, leading to Luke with one red blade, and Leia with two light whips instead. So it seems the Empire would be doing pretty good, right? And Vader and his kids would get to be together, just not in the way you may have hoped. But worry not, because this all comes to a halt when Vader does more research and realizes that Padme would have actually still been alive when he was entombed in his suit for the first time. So during this year, that being 2 BBY, Darth Vader would confront Palpatine in his own throne room, surrounded by Sith books of knowledge. But as he walks up to the throne, he is betrayed by his twins, who burst in through gaps in the bookshelves and then leap down as Leia wraps her light whips around Vader, tying him down, before Luke then steps forward and stabs his father through the chest, killing him. Later the two would also overthrow Sidious and start their own empire, but that's of course
A good question for another time.
Now, while that's the end of the story for the most part, it's also important to note that another alternate scenario would have been when Vader was trying to interrogate Yoda. He could have just faded into the Force instead of just dying, resulting in no capture of the twins. Hopefully this was a good alternate scenario. I hope it wasn't too generic, but I kind of wanted to do something more original trilogy related, and sorry to my subscribers if the audio sounds a little bit different in this video. I'm kind of changing my setup around a little bit as we prepare for doing a face reveal in the next few months. So come on guys, we just got to get to 10k subs and then that'll be happening. So I actually forgot to record the outro earlier, so here it is while editing the video. Anyway, that's it for this video. You can subscribe if you want to. I upload every Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I also post shorts on Saturday. But yeah, see ya.